Instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod.
It is U.S. Open week. Simple as that. U.S. Open week on the Flagstick Podcast. I'm Jeff Potter. He's Scott McLeod, and we're getting right into it as quickly as we can. But first of all, the Flagstick Podcast is sponsored by Cobra Golf, the all-new 3D printed irons featuring fully 3D printed club heads. These irons deliver an unmatched blend of feel, forgiveness, and precision shaping that goes beyond the limits of traditional forging and casting. Experience the future of iron performance and get fit for Cobra's 3D printed irons today. Visit cobragolf.ca for more information. Please check us out on all of our social media networks, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Facebook. Subscribe to us on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. And remember, do not forget the YouTube channel. Like us, subscribe, like us, click the notification bell. Make sure that you never miss anything that we put on the YouTube channel. And new stuff is coming your way very, very soon. Well, it is U.S. Open week, which is another one of those very exciting weeks in golf. I mean, every week is an exciting week for golf. Not every week is an exciting week in golf when it comes to tournaments and stuff like that. But major championships are something to get up for, something to look forward to. And when major championships include the U.S. Open, then they're really exciting to get up for. So we're going to dive into that a little bit. We're going to talk about the conclusion of the RBC Canadian Open, which was an exciting conclusion and a fitting storyline for the Canadian Open. Cool. Which we'll talk about that. But before we get into that, let's get to our front nine. Let's start the front nine up here. Get the front nine going. Presented by Metcalfe Golf Club, a natural setting, a pleasant challenge. It is a great time to get think about this season. Season's well underway, but game packages for adults, juniors, and families are still available, always available. Check them out online and be sure to check out any of the 50th anniversary events that are happening at Metcalfe Golf Course this summer. Visit metcalfegolf.com and stay in touch with your golf savings. Scotty Mac, before we get into any discussions, you left us for a little while.
Short time.
Very short.
It ended up being longer than I thought or hoped. But
you came out on top of that deal.
I did okay. So I whipped down to PEI on Thursday. I didn't talk about it on the podcast because it was going to be a surprise for my dad's 80th birthday. So I knew there was a family dinner going on. It just so happened my flight could get in from Ottawa to Charlottetown just before they were having their dinner. So I did a little special delivery of the magazine to my dad. So walked in the restaurant and behind him, threw the magazine down and said, I think you're looking for a copy of this, sir. And so it worked out really, really well. So I spent a few days down there the weekend, enjoyed watching the Canadian Open with my parents who are diehard, we'll call them golf fans. They don't play anymore, although they would like to, just, health reasons and stuff like that. But so we definitely watched a lot of Canadian Open, spent a lot of, quality time together. And as I mentioned, I ended up spending an extra day there. We had a slightly overbooked flight, which was perfectly fine for me, being that my parents live very close to the airport and they offered up a nice flight credit for future use. So I'm like, I'm done. I got my laptop here. I can do my work. I'll just spend another night on the island and visit our friend Sam McPhail at Golf PEI as well. Went down to the Fairway Finds, their retail operation, saw him, and again dropped. I had two magazines to get.
That was it.
That was it. One for my dad, one for my dad, one for Sam. So it was good. So
Given that you were going to PEI, you think maybe you wanted to take a few more than just two copies with you?
Well, I just had a backpack with me, so I had limited space. It wasn't like I was carrying a lot of carry-on or stuff like that or whatever. But so it was good. And actually, just by coincidence, certainly run into a lot of golfers down there, a lot of people that are up from this way, and it just so happened there was a group of 8 guys that I knew some of the guys in the group. I didn't know all of them, but I ended up chatting with a couple guys in the airport, and one of the guys specifically mentioned he lives in Stittsville, and Metcalf is one of his go-tos as far as his public golf courses
Nice.
that he goes to. But yeah, lots of golfers down there, man. Like certainly end up with a lot of golf conversations. You could see the foursomes that were together on the plane, or like
Yeah, you can just
like,
tell, right? Like,
oh yeah, four dudes in the airport that look like they've had a really they're beat after like 5 days of golf, and they've got like a little trophy that the one guy's carrying around because obviously he's earned it. But yeah, you can tell
nice.
when they're in foursomes and eightsomes, so you can sort of
It's
tell.
not hard to figure them out.
No, it's easy to spot, and what was interesting though was how many of them, within those groups that I talked to had, like it was only one person or two people that had been to the island before, so they were stoked to get there, and a lot of them talked about the fact that it had been a long time for them to go there, but yeah, it was fun. So
Awesome.
no
Awesome. Oh, I
complaints at
did
all.
not have I did not have
You didn't fly
nearly
anywhere?
no. No, I didn't golf.
No golf.
No, I didn't.
Oh boy.
I'm still stuck on 9 holes. Like honestly,
Oh
it
dude.
is crazy because I honestly really felt like I was going to play more this year, and it just hasn't, between my availability, the weather, the way it had been to
Oh
start the
yeah, yeah,
year,
yeah,
I
yeah.
just really kind of stalled out. And
Hmm.
I am playing this week on
Nice.
Friday. I think by the time the podcast gets released on Friday,
Sure.
I'll probably be on the links at the Brockville Country Club.
Nice.
And that's a rain or shine one for me. It's my brother Sean's birthday on the weekend, and I'm going to take him out. Brandon and I are going to take him out for a round of golf at Brockville Country Club, the old stomping grounds down in Brockville. While I never
Sure.
actually grew up playing golf in
Yeah.
Brockville, it is
Yeah.
where I grew up. So we're kind
Yeah.
of head
Yeah.
back down there and
Cool.
grab some lunch at Don's. And
Ooh, little fish and
yeah,
chips action.
yeah, you got
Like
to have some fish and chips at Don's if you're in Brockville. Um,
I certainly had enough seafood in the last
Yeah,
five
you're good.
days,
You're good
so
for a little while.
I'm
It'll
good
be
for a little
burgers
bit.
and fries for you for a while.
I don't know about the fries part. I ate a lot of potatoes too, so but yeah, so you can never
That's
suffer
a
when it's
stereotype, right?
I know, but it's just true,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like it's
PI, yeah. What'd you have? Seafood and potatoes.
yeah, exactly.
Shocking.
So I only had
Hmm.
lobster once though, so
Yeah,
anyways,
well,
we'll leave
you
it at
can't have
that. But
lobster all the time.
But you're right, I can't. But as I said, I got to watch a lot of the Canadian Open, which a lot of comments on that one. We'll get to
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah,
obviously
let's get to
the
it. I mean,
yeah.
the Canadian Open, the RBC Canadian Open was this past weekend, and
Yep.
up north of Toronto,
Hmm.
Caledon, Ontario,
Yep.
at the TPC Toronto, and this is the second year in a row,
Correct.
and I
Yep.
think it's there again next year too, isn't it?
Correct.
So second year in a row at TPC Toronto. Amazing facility, amazing golf courses.
Hmm.
We talked last week about the different golf courses that they have up there, and that this is the one that
Yeah.
logistically,
Makes
is more
sense.
fitting to have a PGA Tour event on, even though maybe
Yep.
there's another golf course that is a little cooler to play.
Yeah, for
Um,
some. Yep.
for some, yes. Everybody, the thing with
We
golf
all have our
courses
own
is really a
preferences.
preference, right? I mean,
Oh,
we all
always.
love, everybody talks about loving St. Andrews
Hmm.
in Scotland,
Hmm.
the old course, the
Oh,
birth of
some
it
people
all.
hate
And
it.
some people just despise playing there.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
don't like it. So, and you can't fault. They say, "What's wrong with you?" It's St. Andrews. It's like, well, I don't care if
Yeah.
it's St.
Well,
Andrews or if it's
and
Augusta
that's
National. I don't like it.
yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, and that's a whole, boatload of other conversations or
Yeah, that's
whatever. But
another
again,
show.
yeah, but I mean, those preferences is really what it's all about. That's why,
Yeah.
we're
And
not
a
big
lot of
ranking
times,
guys. So
for PGA Tour players, the preferences to a golf course can really determine how well they play on that golf
very
course too.
much.
Is it just
Yeah.
a course
Yeah.
that fits their eye? That said,
Hmm.
great weekend. I mean, they had amazing weather for 3 days, for three out
Yeah.
of 4 days. That
Yeah.
fourth day,
Yeah, a
When
little
I
bit of a
started,
struggle.
oh my gosh, that was pretty nasty weather. And I was, we're back here obviously in
Right.
Ottawa, or I'm in Ottawa, and I'm
Yeah.
sitting in the, the gazebo zone,
Mm-hmm.
watching golf. It's chilly out. I got sweaters and blankets on because it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
It's damp out, and I'm thinking, that's what they're playing in right now. And
Exactly.
in fact,
Yeah.
worse, because it wasn't really raining here in Ottawa that much. It was raining up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, wow. Um, Lots of storylines to start the Sunday.
Yes.
Um, Everything was kind of jammed up nice and
It
tight. It's the
was,
way you
which was
want it.
great.
There was a couple of Canadians that were right in there. There was an
Yep.
amateur Canadian amateur that was right in there. It was really, and then they kind of fell back a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and our eventual winner, Bud Cauley,
Yeah.
kind of took control and got it done in the end. But the big storyline for that I felt for the Canadian Open was Bud Cauley, and
Mm-hmm.
you didn't really think about it so much while it was happening, because it wasn't until it looked, it was in, he was kind of in a position to maybe win, that they really started to get into the story.
Yeah. And if
And
if you're a diehard, golfer, you would have been familiar with the story, but obviously a lot of people weren't. And, as you know, any of the broadcasts, they're going to be searching for narratives. I can say I had a few texts and a couple messages for some people that were looking for intel on certain players who ended up not going up on the leaderboard. So
mhm,
people within TV production are always looking for the
yeah,
storyline, and sometimes they might not be familiar because obviously it's going to be. And this one was an easy one. This one was an easy one. So I
yeah,
mean, when you're talking about a guy who, you know, uh, in 2018 involved in a very serious accident, and didn't know if he's going to come back and play golf again.
yeah,
And didn't play for a number of years. He was out of golf for a while and continually had some other, fallout from those injuries, and they were very serious. And as a result of it, for him to come back, and you get to see a guy who was a sort of a can't miss, right? Like he was a
yeah.
guy
He
who,
was a guy for,
yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah, he
He
was
was supposed to be not the next
no.
big thing, but he was, well, yeah, he was supposed to be the next
Yeah,
big thing.
yeah, yeah. He was a
Yeah,
top junior in America. He played on that team in Alabama with Justin Thomas, and they're you're thinking, man, this guy's on the rise. Huge awards winner, gets out on tour, and you know what? You would have thought by now, based on that, and this is the hard part for people when they're trying to guess at what the trajectory of a player is going to be. You don't know what's going to happen,
hmm,
and here at 239 PGA Tour events later, he finally gets a win. And it's cool. His family's there. You've got the kids there, the whole sort of deal. And,
yeah,
while a lot of people are like, okay, maybe it would have been better for the event, if it was, if Victor Hovland or Fitzpatrick or whatever, just like Ryan Fox kind of winning last year, it's kind of what you would expect, sort of a Canadian Open champion, I guess. We don't, you certainly have the McIlroys, but these are the cool stories as well. And he's going to be loyal to this event. He's as much as possible.
yeah.
Because he's got great memories. He's going to be probably back to defend, that sort of deal. Who knows? Maybe he'll drag Justin Thomas back up to play, his good buddy or whatever. But
You never know.
just to see him win, and as you said, how he did it, he obviously surged ahead by a lot, gave himself a nice comfortable lead because as you saw, a lot of
Yeah.
people needed some comfort heading into what should be an easy hole on 18, but a lot of people were messing that one up. So
Yeah, well, I mean, as I said when I was watching it, the fact that the finishing hole was a par five actually played into his favor a little bit, given
yes,
where he hit his tee shot on 18.
oof,
It kind of not takes the pressure off, but when you have I think you had a two-shot lead at that point, um,
three, yeah,
three-shot lead,
three,
three-shot lead.
three.
So I thought it was two, but anyway,
No, it was two. I think it was
he
two. Yeah, it was
and he
two
drives
because
it
he
where he
had
drove it.
yeah, because he had three, but then made the bogey on 17, right? So
Right.
yeah,
So you drive it where he drove it, and
yeah,
then if that's a par four, along this par
yeah,
four, and you've got to basically hack it out and then get it tight, and you're trying to avoid a double bogey, and you
yeah,
got that and I love the front of that green.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, I'm sorry for Yalamarju,
Mm-hmm.
but to have to hit it in the water there, but then
Mm-hmm.
he dealt with it. But I mean,
Sure.
that was probably a good birdie opportunity for him. And then,
Yep.
to have to not be able to go into
Yep.
and have to hit a wedge in there or a short iron in there. And then that's when you're bringing all that
Mm-hmm.
spin into play.
Mm-hmm.
And the front of that green was not favorable for the
Yep.
spin.
Yeah, and it makes it great for not only the second shot and how much trouble that you have to take on with that, but it means that that third shot has to be precise as well. So,
And look how many hit it in the bunker and behind
oh,
after,
right,
you're in the
exactly.
drop area or whatever, and
Yeah.
you're overshooting from the drop area because you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to spin it back into the water again.
Yeah.
So you're hitting it past the hole,
Yeah.
but there's not a lot of room past the hole
No.
to stop it. So
Yeah. And those were some of the adjustments that Ian Andrew had made heading into this event to make sure there was more runoffs on some of the greens. No, they're not all as penal as that one, but certainly it got a lot of players on several holes. So it made it so that, if a player was all of a sudden had 100 yards, it wasn't just easy wedge, just throw it up there and away you
no,
go. It felt more like, 12 at Augusta, where you've got a really small target and you have a choice. Like you said, you can blow it over and then chip back, or you kind of take it on, and you better make sure that you control your distance control and your spin. And you're right, Sudarshan Yalamaraju obviously, performed well, ended up T8, third top 10 in the mix. It looked, he won the Rivermead Cup. It looked early on, Matt Anderson was tied for the lead
yeah,
at
he just
14
ran out of
under early
gas.
on. Yeah, because I mean, he shot 29 on the front and was rolling there. And I know he's super comfortable there. He's played, and these two guys, Yalamaraju and Matt Anderson, both from Mississauga. So, just half an hour or so south of Caledon. And I know Matt Anderson has played a lot of golf there because I actually met him out there one time when he was playing for an event, or not even an event. He was just sort of a casual thing. So he's played a lot of golf there. Team Canada uses that as one of their training headquarters or whatever. So it was nice to see those guys in the mix. And as you mentioned, Justin Matthews certainly equated himself well. He definitely ran out of gas, unfortunately,
Yeah.
in the last few holes, but super talent. Covered him a lot in junior golf, his sister as well. Just a senior at Charlotte, and T29 still won the Gary Cowan medal, so good for him. So yeah.
Awesome. Now, talked about Victor Hovland. He played in his first
Mm-hmm.
Canadian Open there, finished third, solo third,
Yep.
14 under. That's his best finish since the 2025 U.S. Open, where he
Yes.
finished third. So good for him. Good warm up for him
Nice
going into
momentum.
this
Yep.
week. That should help stoke the fire a little bit. Now, the other thing that comes out of the RBC Canadian Open, obviously, is as part of the Open qualifying series. So there are 3
Right.
spots that were open for the Open Championship at Royal Birkdale this year. And those spots will be picked up, obviously, by Bud Cauley, who was the winner, Jesper Svensson, and Jackson Suber. All grab spots to play in the Open Championship this year, which is great. Now, I don't know. I didn't check this, and I'm going to, I may be an idiot, but is Cauley in the field this week?
I believe
Because I don't think a win
so.
automatically gets you
No,
into
no,
a U.S. Open, so there's a
it
little
does.
different.
It does not, but I think he qualified. So
Yeah,
I'll
I
double
should have
check that one.
looked
So
that up before we got
yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
here, but I just wondered if he was exempt or he was already exempt into
Or
the U.S.
qualified.
Open or qualified. One way, it'd be nice to see
Yes, he is in
him
the
play
field.
in the U.S. Okay, that's good. Nice to see him play in the U.S. Open this week after that win. Defending champion Ryan Fox, T8.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy to win tournaments back to back.
No.
McElroy did it, Vegas did it, Furyk did it, Ferrier did it in 1951, mind you. But it's not easy to successfully defend any golf
No.
tournament, let alone a national championship. So
Yeah.
T8, Ryan Fox, it doesn't suck, so don't worry about it. It's all
No, it's
good.
pretty good.
Like that guy.
Before we head to the U.S. Open talk or whatever, did you hear Rory's comments this week about
Are we talking about the
the
U.S.
track one,
Open, or are we
track two?
talking about the
No,
track
the
two
track.
stuff? I
Yeah, the
did
track.
hear what you were saying.
Yeah.
I
No, we'll
kind of
get
think
it.
that
We can get
maybe he's
into it more
jumping the
another
gun a
time.
little bit in his
Mm,
assessment of what the track 2 is going to be like, saying that
mm.
it's going to be a glorified Corn Ferry Tour, which kind of downgrades the Corn Ferry Tour a little bit more. But at the same time, he's not wrong in the sense that
No.
the Canadian Open should not be part of the lower tier version of what
Yes.
this tour is going to be. And they really have to come up with some names for this stuff because
Yeah, I
it
know.
sounds so unprofessional and stupid when
Yeah.
you're talking about the PGA Tour and you've got track 1 and track 2 or tier 1 and
Yeah.
tier 2. This isn't
Yeah.
friggin' U18 hockey here, and
Yeah.
this is
Yeah. Yeah.
professional
Yeah.
golf.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I really like what this whole concept,
No,
but it's
and
not really spelled out yet.
no.
In its complete form as to what
Right.
it's going to be. So
Yeah.
it's really
But
hard to draw conclusions of what it's all going to be about.
yeah, two comments from it. One, the difficulty, and I heard a lot of people commenting, and they're talking about, oh, it should be a signature event or whatever. Okay, it can't be. And again, we have another big discussion about that, but
$20 million, it can be a signature series event.
yeah, but we also don't want it to be because it's not going to be a Canadian Open. It all of a sudden, if it becomes a limited field event where we cannot get Canadians in there, it doesn't become a
Yeah,
national
it's
championship.
kind of like the U.S. Open. It can't be,
Correct. We
it
lose
can't be a
regional
national
qualifier. It
championship.
can
Yeah.
be an elevated event, but I also think, based on that as well, those discussions later on, his comment and discussing and saying that, you know what, I think this maybe starts to show us that pre-live competition, the tour was actually all right, and it was,
Sure. Yeah.
you know what I mean? And that they were chasing something and they sort of destroyed something that was working for the sake of trying to do something else. So, I mean, they've got a lot of crap to sort out and they got to do it in short time here. And I really hope that they do something that still keeps fans engaged, because I think right at this point right now, there's a lot of fans that are just kind of turned off by listening to a lot of this stuff. So,
Well, I think here's the thing. I feel like the whole live golf, if live golf accomplished anything in its existence, is
mhm.
is it forced or it made the PGA Tour force adjustments that maybe they didn't need to make the adjustments that they made. They
Mhm.
just maybe needed to kind of take a look at the amount of money that was coming in, the amount of money that they were putting out there for the players. They could have made some alterations to what they did without disrupting what had been created. The
Mhm.
PGA Tour has always been looked upon as in professional sports as one of the best
Mhm.
professional sports because of the merit-based system that
Right.
existed.
Yep.
This was all like you're an independent contractor.
Mhm.
You are playing week to week,
Mhm.
and when you win, you get special exemptions that take some of that pressure off.
Mhm.
And that whole idea of you go and you play in a tournament, and if you don't win, you don't make any money.
Mhm.
Or if you don't make a cut, you don't make any money, and you got to move on to like this was
Mhm.
and now it's kind of like they're losing a
Yeah.
little bit of that.
Yeah, I
Now
think
it's like
they tried to go for as much free money as possible. We'll call it free
yeah.
for the sake of making it better to retain the top players. But on the other side of it, people have to understand and realize it's in most cases it's not the PGA Tour putting in the money. It has to come down to sponsors and the organizations that are running
Mhm.
this tournament. So now all of a sudden it's like, people can sit there and say, oh, we'd like the Canadian Open to be this, but the issue is that, well, is RBC putting up that extra money?
Exactly.
Or
But
if
thank you
not, it's
RBC
not
for
come
putting the money that you do put up. But
right,
I mean,
exactly. Yeah. But so the expectation is like you can't squeeze them for more. And there's less and less companies that are willing to put out 20 million, $30 million,
mhm.
for a tournament because they're just not getting the return. So people have to understand that's where the money's coming from. It's not coming from the tour itself. So
No.
it makes it a little bit harder that way. Anyways, that said, we
Yeah,
can kind of
I
move
get it. We're
on.
kind
There'll be
of
lots
a
more.
little off track, but I mean, at the
Yeah,
same time,
relevant. So
Rory made the comments that he made during an
yes,
interview at the U.S. Open,
correct.
and
Yeah.
people started talking about it a little bit. And I watched a few interviews on U.S. Open
Yep.
live from
Hmm.
the U.S. Open on the Golf Channel last night, and I don't always agree with Brandel Chambly. In fact, I
Mm-hmm.
almost never agree with Brandel Chambly.
I just don't. I just don't watch him.
Between he and Damon Hack, it's probably
Oh
the two
yeah.
people that I can't stand to be on the Golf Channel. But
Yeah.
he was on there, and they were talking, and he was making some very good points about what the PGA Tour used to be like, and he talked
Hmm.
about he mentioned specific events back in the day.
Yes.
And he mentioned, these events, and these were the main events, like the
Hmm.
Westchester Classic, and so on and so forth.
Sure.
And he said, he says there was about, 18 events there plus the majors. And he said, and guess which events Jack played in?
Hmm. Yeah.
Those were the events that Jack played in. He didn't play in all of the other little ones
Sure.
that might have been going
Yeah.
on. Those were the ones that you played in plus the
Hmm.
majors. He
Yeah.
said, so what's changed?
Mm.
Now you've got a track one level
Yeah.
series, which,
Well,
there's
they.
about 18 events and four
Yeah.
majors, and
Yeah.
that's the events that everybody's going to play in. Like
Yeah.
you're still,
Well, the thing is,
it's basically what it was. Now it is
yeah.
what it
Well,
is.
the funny part is pre Corn Ferry Tour, they did have secondary events, and they did have a secondary tour
Hmm.
that was part of the PGA Tour. So I don't know. It's super complicated. I get it. It's even more complicated these days just because of the corporate aspect of it, the TV aspect of it, everything else. Trying to do the right thing is a hard thing to do, and especially considering you've already got a lot of contracts and different things that are in place that are long term. So this is a big ship that's hard to kind of move. It's not nimble, but
No,
certainly you're right. There was a lot of stuff that was good before that had they just made some minor adjustments, it might have been okay. But now it's like wholesale adjustments, and the hard part is once you create a disconnect with the fans that they don't know
that's
what's
hard to
going
get
on or
back.
what's what. That's really hard to get back because you have to sort of re-educate them. It's hard enough when you change sponsors for an event and for people to get to know, and it takes a few years for them to recognize that that was that event or so forth. But if you make wholesale changes to a tour, it certainly, I mean, we know at this point when people start looking at events and okay, how many players are in this week? Is this a signature event? Is this a
Yeah.
secondary event? Is this, so as a result of it, unless you can just lean into the stars and forget about the events, it's pretty hard to retain the
Well, there's
fans.
been so many weeks throughout the season so far where I didn't even realize that there was an opposite
Yes,
event.
field
Like they
event.
did,
Right.
there was
Yes.
a PGA Tour event going on. Like I think whether it was a signature event, I guess.
Yeah.
And then there was another event going on.
Hmm.
I never really, I kind of just, okay, well, there's an event at Bay Hill, or there's an event here.
Yes.
Well, but there's also one at,
So think about that. You're somebody.
Tuscaloosa, or,
Yeah, yeah, you're somebody that works in golf. Think about the average golf
yeah,
fan who
just
has no
confuses you.
idea. Becomes totally confusing. But, we know
And I
this
don't
week.
understand, and I guess someone's really going to have to kind of explain it all so that, especially even for me to understand is like,
Mhm.
okay, well, is this the Corn Ferry Tour gone now?
Well,
Once this tier one and tier
that's
two
the other,
thing, or
yeah.
track one, track two? It's like, what is this? A freaking
Yeah,
via rail station? Like,
yeah.
my
Yeah.
gosh, get it together. But it's like, is the Corn Ferry now gone? What happens to all those players? They
Right.
they merge into this track two line, and now
Hmm.
how does that work? It's like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. Sometimes you leave well enough alone and you make little tweaks to make it a little bit better, but this isn't a little tweak.
No,
This is
and
a
this is
massive shift, and
And this has been continual. I mean, with the cuts in
yeah,
the number of cards and the changes in qualifying, and again, it's like it's such a massive change that it becomes very, very. This is not like we added two more teams to a league, you know what I mean, or something like
no.
this. This is a lot. This is changing the whole complexion of it
Hmm.
based on what? Based on reaction to
It
somebody.
also does that not seem what it
Oh
seems
yeah,
like to you? It's like it's
totally. Yeah,
very reactionary.
yeah.
It's
But
not
now they're going
progressive.
back.
It's
No. Yeah.
reactionary, and it's just like, oh my God, Liv, we got to do this. We got to do this now. And in the midst of all of that, Liv is ultimately likely going to be
Yeah.
gone, and
Exactly.
now
It's
you just did all this.
Oh,
Why?
oh
Would you have
God.
done all of this if Liv never
Exactly.
existed?
No,
So
highly
Liv
doubtful.
forced your hand to do something. You've done something extremely drastic, and you
Yeah.
haven't really fixed anything.
No.
Like you just
No.
made it more Anyway, all right. Well, uh, let's just push all of our
Yeah.
U.S. Open
Sure,
chat into the
yes.
back
Let's do
nine, Scott, because it kind
that.
of I want to say we got off the rails because that
No.
is what this show is all about. It's all about getting, we golf talk, we're chatting stuff. This is
Yeah, that's important,
in the
right?
forefront right now because Rory opened his mouth again on a podium, and we get a little sidetracked during U.S. Open week with talk of where the PGA Tour is going. But that said, no, the RBC Canadian Open should never be a tier 2 event. But
I'd rather
we'll see
if
what happens.
it ever wasn't a top tier event, I agree with a number of other people. It's like, can we just head to the DP World Tour with it and make it a world event?
Yeah,
Who knows?
might be a good idea.
Lots of other options. So okay,
all right.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna take a break then.
Yeah.
Just so we don't get too deep into U.S. Open chat and then have to take a break. So we can take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the U.S. Open. We're going to talk about Shinnecock Hills. Yeah, we do promise. We do promise. No more sidetracked. But you are listening to and watching the Flagstick podcast with Jeff Botter and Scott McLeod. We will be right back.
The future isn't forged, it's printed. We've combined 3D printing and state-of-the-art engineering to revolutionize how golf clubs are made. Our internal lattice saves an incredible amount of weight and moves it where it matters most. Irons with unmatched feel, forgiveness, and precision, all engineered into a compact player's shape. Performance only possible with 3D printing. Only possible with Cobra Golf.
All right, we're back. We're back. It's the Flagstick podcast with Jeff Botter and Scott McLeod. Love those short breaks. It's the back nine, and we're going to talk about the U.S. Open. But it's the back nine, presented by Falcon Ridge Golf Club. With 27 holes of fun and challenging golf at great rates, Falcon Ridge is a golfing experience that you do not want to miss. And don't forget, Falcon Ridge has built the first TrackMan range facility in Eastern Ontario. TrackMan Range is all about easy-to-use features that provide the ultimate range experience for every golfer at every level. That's practice games and virtual golf. To book tee times or one of the 10 TrackMan range bays, visit falconridgegolf.ca. All right. Like we said before, you get up for major championships. It's kind of just one of those things that gets exciting to talk about, exciting to look forward to watching. But man, the discussion lines, the discussion directions that you can take a tournament like the U.S. Open when it happens just makes for such great TV, radio,
conversations. I mean, I mean, there's a lot of conversations that can be had, and just like we did 2 weeks ago with Riviera for the U.S. Women's Open, I mean, there's equally as much, if not more, to talk about here. Based on the fact that we've got a really historic venue as well, and this is interesting for the fact that. A lot of the times when we talk about majors, there's a lot of talk about the players, right?
But we're not really talking about the players, are we?
And a lot of people,
they'll be there.
They'll be there.
156 of them. There's pros, there's amateurs. It's the U.S. Open. There's gonna be 156 players in the field. That's awesome. It's this weekend, just in case anyone's wondering. They're playing for $21 million plus and last year, and last year JJ Spawn won. Good Srixon guy. But who cares?
I mean,
well, we do care. We do. But
care.
Man, do we care more about where it is? Hey, did you know that there's 130 golf courses on Long Island?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
130.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's insane. And,
Long Island's
these
big,
are not
people.
These are not. They're not 130 like dog tracks on Long Island. Like, first of all, Long Island. There's no dog tracks on Long Island. But there's 60 plus of the 130 golf courses on Long Island are private.
Yeah.
But there's also 60 public facilities, which, by the way, includes Bethpage Black and the three courses. 4.
I think there's more than that. Red, blue, black,
orange, black, green, Delta,
pink, purple,
double diamond. Anyway, Bethpage Black is Long Island, which I don't know how many people actually know that Bethpage Black is on Long Island, but
a lot of people know
think
it's
of it
in New York.
I think it's in downtown New York. This is some
it's
park,
Manhattan,
like friggin' Central Park. No, it's
Well,
It's
here's the cool part.
anyway.
I mean, it's like it's like a big sandbar. So basically, from building a golf course, it's highly suitable property.
So it's
It's got
PEI.
Yeah, it's got more elevation changes than you could possibly imagine. It's not dead flat. And going back hundreds and hundreds of years, this started to be a little bit of a playground for people that lived in the city to start to head out to
Heading
enjoy
to the
those,
Hamptons.
head into the Hamptons, head out and enjoy yourself um, out on Long Island. So, golf obviously became a big thing here. I mean, some of the best golf courses in the world, and you'll hear it this week on the broadcast.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the best golf courses in the world are obviously located here, and especially right around Shinnecock. And Shinnecock, is one of those 5 charter clubs that were part of the founding of the USGA. They're the first incorporated club, and then we'll get to that or whatever. But more than anything, it's got a history of hosting the US Open, and it's such a sick golf course to watch. And let's go back a little bit though too. Like, what do you remember about this golf course? I mean, I don't know if, I mean, obviously 2018, but I don't know, you weren't really playing much golf. You probably remember the Corey Pavin shot.
Oh, remember the Corey Pavin. Now,
Okay.
that's if we back up the podcast, you will notice that I misquoted or mistakenly thought that it was Pumpkin Ridge that Corey Pavin hit that forward on.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It was actually Shinnecock. And I was
Yeah.
watching clips of that shot again.
Yeah. Forward. Yeah.
To understand
Ridiculous shot.
how good a shot that was
Yeah.
on that hole.
Yeah.
That was pretty incredible. So yeah, that's probably my most
your memory?
recent,
Yeah.
not my most recent, my historical memory
Right.
of watching golf on TV.
Yeah.
I do recall
Yeah.
and
But yeah,
watching Corey Pavin win because the Cleveland VAS.
Yeah.
Woods.
But you're not going back to the Ray Floyd.
No, but
86.
I have
Seen some clips.
I have seen some clips of what Ray Floyd did, and
Yeah.
I was watching a Golf Channel Classic.
Cool.
Obviously, which they do probably bring back some of those a little during U.S. Open week that are a little more fitting.
Mhm.
And watching, Nicholas and Watson kind of fall off, and Payne Stewart kind of fall off, and watching Payne Stewart hit shots and then +4s. Man, that's just that never gets old. I don't think anybody will ever do that again, just because of it's like wearing 99. You just don't do it.
No.
But unless it's a tribute thing. But it was, Ray Floyd was the one that was locked in, where, others were faltering on the back 9, which generally, Floyd was commenting in his interview about that is what happens in U.S. Opens is guys back up on the back 9. And that week he didn't. But yeah, that'd be probably my most memory.
I think one of the cool parts of it is, you look at it as sort of, even though it's not directly on the water, it's still sort of that, linksy sort of feel and look and so forth. And I think, when we start to, come forward here to 2026, the opportunity to watch this in like super high definition, not that we didn't have great TV in 2018, but there's even more cameras, better views, drone shots, more common that. And I think as a result of it, obviously Shinnecock becomes the star of the show. And, it's had, this is the 6th time having the US Open there. And, as we were talking about a little bit off air, and we're going to get into here, I mean, the setup now is slightly different. And, Court Crenshaw came in here and did, some key renovations to this golf course. But, when you look at it, it's, again, one of those ones where maybe they didn't put their thumbprint on it. They kind of enhanced it for to keep that same test, for members and so forth. The one of the guys from the USGA said this is one of the golf courses like Oakmont where they could just snap their fingers in a couple weeks and have it ready for the US Open, which is kind of cool. And I think as a result of it, I'm excited to kind of see that and and I think the players are too. They're excited to test their games against this after, especially, Oakmont last year, where pouring rain and long rough and a lot of frustrations. I think this is, becomes a palette of a golf course where, the players can show their artistry and show their abilities, and it showcases their ability. Whereas sometimes you get a golf course that's, set up in certain ways, it just doesn't show their skills.
I think that one of the things that I took from a lot of the information that has been sort of presented about what they're doing with Shinnecock this week, and one of the biggest things that you hear them talking about is the widening of the fairways. From where the average fairway width in 2018 was about 30 to 35 yards, and this week it's closer to 45 to 50 yards. And your first instinct is probably my first instinct is like, okay, well, widen the fairways at a U.S. Open. You're just making it easy for everybody to hit the fairways. Like,
but that's a generic statement, really. Yeah, you have to look at the
yes and no.
Of it, right?
If you look at where they've widened the fairways, what they're essentially doing is they're making it so more of the field is involved in the tournament, and they're putting more of the skill on the second shot, not so much the first shot. However, if you look at the diagrams of the holes, and last night I was watching US Open Live on Golf Channel, and they broke down the main holes that they've widened, and when you see how the fairways were pinched in before, and you see how they're widened now, a lot of the bunkering that is beside the fairways, when they pinched them in, the bunkering ended up on the sides of the fairways. With them widening some of those fairways back out, now what they've done is they've brought the fairway back in front of the bunker. So now if you hit the ball in the fairway to the side of the bunker, your ball can actually roll out through the fairway into the bunker. Whereas before, the rough would stop that from happening. Which with some of those bunkers, hitting out of the longer rough or the intermediate rough is infinitely easier than hitting out of the bunkers, trying to get it to stop or carry certain spots on the green. So, yes, the fairways are wider, but the longer grass, fescue grass, whatever, is closer to the fairway. So now with those wider fairways, it plays a little bit of a trick on you because you're seeing a larger landing area, but what you're missing is the fact that your miss is now more penal from the get-go.
Right.
So as soon as you miss a fairway, you're dead in the water, as opposed to missing a fairway and rolling it into the intermediate rough, and then, we're into the secondary rough or whatever before you actually get to the long crab. Now you're basically missing a fairway and boom, you're dead. So unless you hit it way left or way right and you get into the areas where the fans are trampling down the grass, and then you're flipping a coin 50-50, am I getting a good lie or not? So it's interesting when you talk about they're making it easier, but what happens when they pinch it in like that is you're basically just playing a bomb and gouge game. And, and only the long hitters are the ones that are going to be in contention, because they'll just bomb. If you're going to hit it in the rough anyway, you might as well just bomb it down as far as you can and take your chances with a wedge. That was Bryson's sort of mentality for
Wingfoot,
Wingfoot, right? So
and as you said, it may be wider, but it's not necessarily easier. And it's really about the greens here and the shapes. And even if you catch, there is a really good every shot sort of video with no laying up, where it really showed the nuances of the holes. People have to realize how much elevation there actually is on this golf course. I mean, my perception early on when I first heard about or first paid attention to Shinnecock when it was like late teens was that it was flat. It was flat, and it is not. And as a result of it, when you start to look at the green surfaces, they represent that as well. So as a result of it, while the greens may be large, much like the fairways, the landing areas and effectively they play a lot smaller because of the heavy slopes and those collection areas and the run up. We're going to see a lot of golf balls run off. Greens.
A lot like Pinehurst with the upside down salad bowl kind of mentality of Donald Ross and architects like that. It's old school stuff. You either hit it on the green, but you could hit it on 17 greens in regulation and only stay on 2.
Right. And so what we're going to see is some skills here for players, like skills like lag putting becomes really important. Now, I should say that it's not going to become. I don't think it'll feel like Aronimink, where a lot of people were like, okay, there was no separation in the field because people just couldn't play at the pins, and as a result of it, it was just a bunch of lag putt, two putts. Mathematically, you're going to have more two putts from that distance, or whatever.
Yeah.
They are going to have some opportunities for these players, but in order to hit those shots and get close to have those opportunities, you are going to have to have a great tee shot to be in position to do that.
Angles,
Then you're going to have to really be able to control your yardage and your spin into these holes, which is not easy to do, and becomes less easy when you're dealing with the thinner, drier fescue, which you tend to, or fescue rough, where you tend to have more flyers than you do in just wet, thick rough, where you're just kind of slopping it out of there. So as a result of it, you're going to see some crazy shots that come, flying into the pin, and a player will think they're going to be okay, and then all of a sudden it goes bounding off someplace.
Yeah.
And that makes it interesting. As a result, though, with those greens, they're going to have to, keep them fast, but they're going to have to manage them. Whereas we know that hasn't happened 100% in the past.
Yeah.
They've realized and understand that the agronomy of this golf course, that these greens do dry up a little bit faster than normally, than a lot of other golf courses. So, that happened obviously in 2018. They sort of lost the golf course. And this is going to be a little bit fairer, but it also allows them to use more hole locations to make it a little bit more interesting from a scoring perspective.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that I was listening to Rory's interview where he, when he was talking about the Canadian Open and stuff too, but he was always talking about this course, and they asked him, what's the difference in his mind, or in the players' minds, what's the difference between the course being challenging and the course being impossible? What's, and he's to his point, it's a fine line on a golf course like this between a ridiculous setup and a challenging golf course. And his main point was, it kind of comes down to the greens. And if they let the greens get too hard, too firm, too fast, with the amount of wind that they have out there, that's when it becomes a less of a difficult setup and more of a ridiculous setup. Right. So they've got to be careful. They've got to set the golf. I mean, obviously, you've got to pay attention to the weather that you're going to be dealt for the weekend or for the week, and you don't want to have the greens running super fast if it's going to be dry and windy all weekend, because they're going to dry out more. So you might start at 11.2 and you might finish at 14. And on those greens, 14 is next to impossible to stop a ball. And with those winds, it may be, times when they're playing Open Championships and the wind, particular at Scotland or Carnoustie or something, the wind is so fast and the course is so dry that you can't actually keep a ball on the green with the wind. The wind blows it away. That's unplayable course conditions.
Yeah,
so you don't want that.
No, I heard a podcast clip of Kevin Stadler from playing here, and I think it was the Goosen year. I think it was the 2004, and he talks about having a 2-footer that it was hard enough to shake into the hole as it was, but he barely missed the 2-footer, and the ball ended up in a bunker. So they don't want that. Then it becomes just silly more than anything. But
absolutely.
At 74.40 as the total yardage, par 70.
That's not that long.
That's relatively, for these players in June. The course is, even if they get a little bit of rain, it dries out pretty quickly because of that sand base. So it's going to play firm. So it does not play as long. Holes that will play long will be like 2, because it's a 250-yard par 3. But even when you look at the par 4s that play over 500 yards, and there are a couple of them, they will not play quite as long as you would imagine. That's a way different than what we'd see on a regular basis. Even their longest hole at 614. Yes, that seems like long, but if it's firm and it's linksy or whatever, that'll play short very quickly. But again, it doesn't. This is not about length. You have to have a minimum amount or whatever, but it is really going to be about precision more than anything.
Yeah, no, 100%. And these guys are averaging, I saw a stat there, John Rahm during the PGA Championship was averaging 349.5 for the week. So,
That's John Rahm. I get
Yeah.
it, but at the same time, the majority of these guys are hitting the ball that far. This is
Yeah.
not a bunch of guys hitting it 250.
No.
These
No.
guys can hit it 300 plus. So,
Hmm.
you see a 500-yard par four, and maybe I'm looking at that going, damn, I mean, that's 250 for me.
Hmm.
I'm looking at a
No.
three-shot par, potentially a three-shot par four. These guys are looking at that as driver
Driver
seven
six.
iron.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This is not, it's a nothing game. Corey Pavin's 4-wood on 18 at
Yes.
Shinnecock when he won the U.S. Open. I mean, from that distance, that was a 4-wood from like 210.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
These guys are hitting 7 irons and 8 irons from 210. I mean,
Yeah, it just
it's
depends on the wind more than anything. And the one thing about this one is that they can't necessarily play because some of the greens are elevated, or a lot of them are elevated. They can't necessarily play the ground game and bounce it in.
no,
So even though if the wind gets up and you're 210 out, you can't like bounce it up there. You
no.
gotta push it up there. So it becomes
Again, it's
harder
a lot
to.
like Pinehurst, where
Yeah.
the bump and run doesn't around the greens. They can hit those little putts from around the greens, or those little,
Yeah.
you know, kill a chip into the bank kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
But I do like the
approaches,
variety. I do like the variety here, especially in the par threes, because they go 252, 187, 157, 176, which is kind of nice to see.
yeah,
So that'll be interesting as far as how they do that setup. Obviously, the fours don't have as much variety. The fives are going to reach them no matter what, anyways.
yeah.
But less of a factor because there is only two of them. But yeah, I mean, if you're a shot maker, I mean, this is where it's at for these golfers, and then dealing with the wind and so forth. And I think this is probably the better prep for the Open Championship than they've ever had. Going from an Oakmont to a Open Championship is no good, but in
No,
this case, it's really good. So, what do you
yeah.
think from a player perspective? What's your storylines, top contenders, and stuff like that? I mean,
Well,
there's lots of the usuals.
I think the biggest story going into the week has to be Scheffler, and
Hmm.
from the standpoint of he's looking for the career Grand Slam.
Yeah.
We've already seen this happen last year with Rory, and getting it done, and having that monkey off of his back.
Sure.
I don't know that Scheffler feels the same kind of pressure to achieve a career Grand Slam that Rory did. I don't think
I think he's
Scheffler in his
early
mind
enough.
sees himself
Yeah.
in that, as one of those players that's up with the Woodses and the Nicklases and the players and so on. I'm sure he would love to do it, but I don't
Yeah.
think it in his mind, at least not to the public, doesn't come
Mm.
across as it's a real priority for him. He just wants
No.
to be the best, as he puts it, the best version of himself.
I think probably at this point he probably just assumes it might just sort of happen. You know what I mean? Like he's got lots of
Hmm.
time, whereas like Rory had that big gap. And when
Yes.
that gap gets long between
You
those,
wonder what if.
right, exactly. Whereas, Scotty's really, I mean, he wasn't even in this position until he won the Claret Jug
Yeah.
last year. So, but my only concern a little bit for him, and I mean, obviously we can never count him out, is that, he hasn't really been quite as good of late with his irons, although, managing your way around this golf course with the irons is going to be important. And if the wind is up and, he's putting, and we've definitely seen some frustration from
Yeah.
him of late on a certain thing. So, I have some concerns that way. I know that Rory loves this golf course, and again, the only problem for him is that he didn't exactly play it the best in 2018, where he
Mm-mm.
only got to play 2 rounds,
I
right?
love the golf course too, but I'm not going to win the U.S. Open.
Yeah, true, fair
I
enough.
was watching.
Yeah,
It's actually
loving
interesting.
it doesn't give you any type of advantage, I guess.
Statistically, Scheffler's biggest issue is going to be driving the ball.
Hmm.
And I was actually looking at
Interesting.
Brandel Chambly was showing a three still clip of his swing from last year to this year.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's from a behind down the line view, and you can actually see, and it all makes sense. Is his swing is more up and down now than it was last year. If you look at the stages of where they stopped the swing in the same spot,
in each spot, whether it's, the club is more up and down. It's more vertical, and his misses this year have been way right, a lot, like way right, to the point where he's missing fairways so badly that he's not able to. His proximity to the hole has gone down because he's not able to get the ball onto the green with any kind of accuracy because he's constantly coming out of longer rough. He's not going to be able to do that here. He's not going to be able to hit the ball way right. He's got to get the ball in play because there really is no, like I said earlier, there really is no next level of rough to be, obviously it's a U.S. Open. There is a secondary cut and everything, but it's the margin for error to miss a fairway is such a smaller margin for error than it might have even been in 2018 that, those greens are not going to allow him to come from the rough all weekend.
Yeah, but he's still number one in the tour in driving right now, in total driving. So, I mean, it's as much as Brandel wants to go at him a little bit. Yes, he's
not going at him at all. His assessment of his swing. If you look at the pictures of his swing is vastly different than it was last year at the same time. It's vastly different. So that has to have an effect on your ball flight. And
even if that's the case, he's still hitting it better than everyone else. So
I don't know how they get that stat. I watch every tournament he plays in. He's missing fairways constantly. How does he?
But that's what you see because that's the highlight that you see.
Well, the highlight is 14 tee shots. If he misses if he's only hitting 3 fairways out of 14, that's not a good stat. Does that mean everybody else in the field is hitting less than 3 fairways?
He's only
I don't even understand what that stat means.
He's only 26 in driving accuracy, or he's 26 in driving accuracy. So relative to everyone else,
2025.
I would have to go back and look, but I'm going to guess it was not by that much different. So, you can't handpick everything, but yes, his driving accuracy, he was actually 59th on tour. So his driving accuracy is better this year.
That makes no sense.
Again, you got to go back and look at the totality of it and not the particular shots. I mean, again, if we look and judge someone's putting based on a few putts or highlights, if obviously we see a TV broadcast, the full analysis, yes, he could have some bigger misses and they could hurt him for sure. And definitely I've seen the big misses too, but he's still statistically the most rounded player off the tee right now. So anyways, we'll see how that pays off when, the wind is blowing hard.
Yeah, exactly.
The water.
Well, if you're hitting a big cut and the wind's blowing left to right, it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are other people in the field besides Scheffler and McIlroy.
Sure,
we know
definitely.
that. Xander Schauffele is one I think that you need to pay attention to. His track record with the U.S. Open is pretty decent.
Yeah.
Matt Fitzpatrick played great this past week at the RBC Canadian Open, and he's still probably, based on wins alone, he's the hottest guy on the tour. So, the fact that he's playing as well as he has up until this point, and now going into a U.S. Open, he's very accurate off the tee as well. He's very accurate with his approach shots. So, it stands to reason that, when premium is put on hitting the ball in the fairway and hitting greens, that's going to put him in a really good position. I'm not sure. Cameron Young obviously is.
He's been he's waned a little bit since the Players Championship, but I know one of the things that's going to happen here is that the New York fans are going to obviously be behind him, whether that makes a difference or not. Could it be a chance for him to kind of have an open sort of breakthrough? Obviously has, length and so forth. But, I just mentioned it just because it's like from a value standpoint, if people are like betting on stuff like this, he's obviously not going to be a favorite. You know what I mean? A lot of people are not going to putting a lot into him, but I think this one would mean a lot to him and being close to, where he grew up and so forth. I think being a New York guy, it becomes kind of fun. But look, there's so many cool storylines because
Yeah.
it is the U.S. Open, and we do have the Open qualifiers, and we do have players here that are gonna come in, and there's always somebody that's hot that nobody knows coming in, and that kind of makes a difference. We have 4 Canadians in the field. We have young guys that are in the field that have gone through qualifying. A lot of eyes will be on Miles Russell, who's only 17. There was talk whether Charlie Woods obviously caddied for him in the qualifying, and Charlie is not caddying for him this week. But it's
Why
it's
not,
fun to
though? Why
because
not?
I think he has a whole bunch of high school stuff related that he has to do. So
Come
kind of like
on.
school
Are
and
you
stuff.
kidding me? If Charlie Woods was playing in the U.S. Open, he wouldn't be worried about the high school stuff.
No,
I
probably
think
not.
I think it's kind of like like the greatest game ever played, where they
Well,
try to
yeah,
get
but
rid of the caddy because I think he stands a better chance of winning with a different caddy. It's like, okay,
true.
let's be honest with ourselves here. Miles Russell is an exceptional 17-year-old player. Miles
Yeah,
Russell is not winning the U.S. Open.
chances are not for
So
sure. Yeah,
Charlie Woods caddy for him, let him
yeah,
relax like he did in the qualifier, let him chill out a little bit and enjoy the experience
yeah,
with a buddy.
yeah.
You don't have to put the golf coach on the bag or whatever. Like, come
Yeah, I
on.
have no idea who's caddying for him,
Bad
but I'll have to
move.
look into that. And Brooks obviously withdrew from the
Yeah.
final round of the RBC Canadian Open. He is out hitting balls. He was hitting balls yesterday, yesterday being the Tuesday, hitting balls at Shinnecock, and said it was better, but we'll see if that injury lingers. Because as you know, I mean, we've all been through it as far as having types of injuries, and it's easy enough to sit there and say, oh yeah, I'm better,
And
but
then it isn't.
and then it isn't. And if you're playing well like he was at RBC, but all of a sudden getting treatment,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see how that plays out. I mean, he won here before in 2018, so he knows the formula of how
Yeah.
to take on Shinnecock.
Don't hit it
It's just
behind the green in 11.
yeah, it's
That's the
whether
formula.
it's whether he can execute what they want to do, and that'll be the
Yeah.
measure of success for all the players. There's lots of things they want to do, but whether they can execute it or not. So
Never been a big Adam Scott fan. Sorry, people, but gotta give the guy props for.
that's
I
crazy.
mean, this is insane
Yeah,
to play 100 consecutive major championships.
yeah. How many people have played
Nicholas
100?
did 146.
Yeah, but how many
But-
people have played 100 golf tournaments in their life?
To be in 100, like, considering the difficulty of being in the field for a U.S. Open,
Right.
that you have to be at the top of your game
yes
as a
just to get
professional
in.
year after year after year to number one, avoid having to qualify through open qualifying for the U.S. Open, but to play in 100 consecutive majors.
Yeah,
That's at
just
least 25 U.S. Opens.
Yeah, so just think about that. I mean, the streak started 25 years ago in 2001. We'll have a number of people that are listening to this podcast that were not alive.
Yeah.
And it's only 2001. So yeah, he's 45 years old, playing some really good golf right now. You're not expecting him to win, but the fact that it's 100 in a row, it's certainly something to mark for sure. So
okay, so we don't have a lot of time left here.
Yeah.
We got into a lot of other discussions, but one of the keys to playing well this week are going to be your scrambling. I think that's normal for any U.S. Open is your ability to get up and down for pars and get up and down for bogeys is going to be the difference between whether you're in contention or not in contention. The more doubles you put on the card, the worse it's going to be for you. So you've got to get the ball in play as much as possible. And when you don't, your misses around the greens have to be in places where you can get up and down for at least nothing worse than a bogey, so that you can stay close. And a birdie will take care of a bogey, but two birdies have to take care of a double. So I think that's kind of be, and we talked about lag putting, like all of these things around the greens are going to be probably more important, than just
anything.
being in the fairway, which is going to be very important. So
yeah, and it'll be a big lesson for amateurs that are watching this to realize how important that short game is, and over just having a pretty golf swing. I mean, it's that ability, like you said, to get up and down, to hit precise shots, which is different than chop shots out of thick rough or whatever, where they're getting lucky. These are ones where you're going to see a lot of really cool skills, spinning balls, getting them up on tiers, longer pitches and chips. It's not just going to be flops. So, out of those closely mown areas, you're going to see some cool stuff this week for sure.
So there you go. So whether or not we get a winning score over par or a winning score of -15, it's irrelevant because we're tuning into the U.S. Open, and I know where my butt is going to be parked on Sunday afternoon. It's going to be out in the gazebo at my house with the TV on, watching the Open Championship or the U.S. Open Championship, and enjoying myself and some golf regardless of what the final score is.
Yeah, that'll be a great way to spend Father's Day. And with that said, happy Father's Day in advance to all the fathers out there. Exactly. And hopefully they get some golf in on Sunday and get to watch some golf as well.
Exactly. Very exciting. All right, we're out of here. Thanks to our sponsors, Metcalf Golf Club, Falcon Ridge Golf Club, and of course our presenting sponsor, Cobra Golf, with the all-new 3D printed irons featuring fully 3D printed club heads. These irons deliver unmatched blend of feel, forgiveness, and precision shaping that goes beyond the limits of traditional forging and casting. Experience the future of iron performance and get fit for your 3D printed irons by Cobra today. Visit cobragolf.ca for more information. Well, as we hope that you've enjoyed watching and hearing us this week, be sure to follow us across all of our social media networks, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Facebook. Subscribe to us on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. And don't forget the YouTube channel. Like us and click the notification bell. Make sure that you never miss a single episode or anything that we're putting up there soon. Get over to flagstick.com for more amazing golf content delivered every day. Subscribe to our Flagstick Digest newsletter delivered to your inbox 3 times a week, absolutely free of charge. And look out for the next edition of Flagstick Golf Magazine in print at your golf course close to home in Eastern Ontario in the Outaouais in mid-July. Or pick up a copy of the May edition that's already out there.
If you can find one.
But that's it. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. Until next week, I'm Jeff Potter.
I'm Scott McLeod.
Always remember, go for the stick.